I caught up yesterday and recorded this interview with Debbie Lee. Debbie Lee is the director of the Melbourne Jewish Book Week, which, by the way, begins in exactly 1 month from today. So here's that chat with Debbie Lee, because there's some really exciting stuff. Director of the Melbourne Jewish Book Week. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Gary. Pleasure to be here as always.
Great to have you. And we're 1 month exactly out from the opening of the Melbourne Jewish Book Week from the 1st to the 4th of August.
How fantastic. Thank you for that little reminder of how close we are.
It's very close. And the connections. Connections is the title of
Correct.
Why?
Well,
what are we connecting?
Connecting the dots, but effectively what we want to do with this year's festival is actually radiate out with a sort of, coming out of the darkest period with an air of positivity and ensure that we don't become too insular as a community and that we celebrate our literature and the Jewish sort of writers and books about Jewish themes and cultures, but that we invite people from beyond our community. So it is about connecting out. And as you might recall, last time the theme was belonging, which was more about coming together and, reconnecting, I guess, in an inward sense. But this is more.
And that whole scope of the Jewish community worldwide has changed, hasn't it?
100%. In fact, those connections are so strong now. And I think what happens, this is not rocket science, but when we go through difficult times, we as a community sort of come back to, we rebond and we find new connections within, and we start, sort of reading more, we listen to more podcasts, we learn more about our heritage, we find out more about the politics and the history of Israel and of the Jews more generally. That's certainly been happening.
I've got to say, I don't think I've read a novel in the last 2.5 years.
It's difficult to find a novel, like when there's so much fact that is almost beyond what you could even think to create. Like it's almost dystopian, isn't it?
Isn't it? I get all that from sitting in front of the TV and falling asleep or something like that. But what I read is to inform me about the Jewish world, about Israel, about what's happening around me the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay, so the opening gala, If You Don't Laugh, which is such an important thing to do.
Yes, absolutely.
Which reminds me, by the way, who just turned 100?
Who turned? Oh, I know, Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks.
Yes, I read about that at 4 a.m. when I wake up. And he is probably one of the greatest. I mean, along with, Groucho Marx. And, there's a whole litany of Jewish comedians, but that is the inspiration. And it is about, we can't sit around and moan and we have to find...
You have to be able to laugh at things
too. You have to be able to. And it is with that sort of sense of satire and pathos in a way. But we've got the most wonderful producer of our gala this year, who is Jessica Bellamy, and she is theatrically trained. She actually has run a lot of youth programs in the arts. She works for Maribyrnong Council, I think that's the right one, in the arts, and she's just immersed. She's young, she's dynamic, and she's pulled together a fabulous lineup of 8 authors, so the 3 internationals. We always have the 3 internationals who I'll tell you about.
Yes.
And she's just handpicked a few select authors who will be able to talk for about 5 or 6 minutes each about this topic. So it's not necessarily about their books that they'll be talking it through on the next day. It's actually an original piece. So a question I asked, because we just reflected on Mel Brooks. Yep.
Has humour, and particularly Jewish humour, changed a lot?
I think that it's just become more modernised, obviously, because sometimes the other night, for some unknown reason, I started watching Blazing Saddles.
I had a section on a segment on my show with a lady called Linda Fisher, who is a film buff and critic. She runs a film group, and we talked about Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
Because there was a show on TV, I don't know whether you watched it, a doco called The 99-Year-Old Man, because at that stage he was 99.
Right.
Which was fantastic, because he used to have a character called the 2,000-Year-Old Man.
Oh, of course.
In his younger days. Anyway, point being, we were having this whole discussion was with a movie like Blazing Saddles,
Yeah.
which is still my favourite movie, would that type of humour be acceptable with today's standards?
I actually found it very dated because I remember even when I was young and probably a lot of the humour was over my head, I found it absolutely hysterical.
Yeah.
But by today's standards, it could be deemed a bit offensive because it was so stereotyping of
the
people.
N-word.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
So I do think that, that's just the evolution of through time, humour changes. But at the time, it was probably ahead of its years. It was groundbreaking. And it was daring to name the sort of, stereotypes and the things that people wouldn't dare say except behind closed doors. So in a way, it was progressive, but so. Now it's outdated. Funny how that happens.
Anyway, I've dragged you away from the gala opening night. I'm sorry.
That's quite
Let's get on with it. What are they talking about?
So, well, if you don't laugh, I mean, really, it is all about the humour in the pathos of life and where we're at. And everybody, I mean, I haven't actually seen the individual pieces, but we have, Katia Ariel, who is a very earnest writer.
Yes,
she's a memoirist and a biographer of Ephraim Finch, obviously.
What a brilliant
book Ferryman is. But she's one of the authors, even though you wouldn't necessarily, attach her to humour. But apparently it's absolutely beautiful, and it's about the presentation. It's about showing a different angle of each author that was selected. We've got Danny Ben Moshe, who's The Watchmaker's War, which is a novel about his actual documentary, which was fact. And apparently he's very comedic. So, a very interesting and diverse choice of authors that are presenting. I can't even think off the top of my head who they all are, but I know we've got our 3 internationals because we always do. We start the internationals and, as I say, it's an element of surprise because I don't try to oversee all of this. I want to be surprised as well.
Okay. I can read them off for you, but that's all right. Let's not go down that path. So you've got a whole lot of fascinating segments. I want to know, though, why, what's the AI conundrum is a question you pose.
Right.
Why?
So Alan Finkel, who is the former chief scientist, he has created an organisation called Proudly Human.
Yes.
It's international, it's trademarked, and it's all about getting authors and other creatives, artists and across the board to really provide the evidence that they have created whatever that piece of work is themselves without using AI, because in future, the chances are we won't know what's actually human.
It is stunning, and you say that. I've just had this experience where an organisation I'm associated with needed to draw up a legal letter.
Yeah.
And a very experienced KC of ours went to a piece of AI, explained the circumstances, and it drafted a brilliant letter.
That's actually...
it's scary.
It is scary. It's a tool. It can be incredibly useful, but you'd always want to use that as a starting point and then go through. Because
of course.
If you look at it, I mean, occasionally I might try and develop a blurb. If I'm having trouble, I might put some ideas into AI. This is because I'm a publisher on the other side of the, what I do. And sometimes distilling, 200 pages into 2 paragraphs can be a little bit difficult. So you might go and look at ChatGPT, but inevitably it uses all of these adjectives and it becomes really kind of prosaic, it just doesn't ring true. And I've had a lot of authors write to me as well, say they're getting really kind of, I guess, harassed by AI-generated materials marketers say, your book is, and they wax lyrical about that. It strokes the ego. The author writes to me and says,
AI always does stroke the ego.
Yeah, and I read it and I go, that is AI-generated. These people are trying, there are people behind it.
Of course.
And they're going to fleece you because you employ them to do some marketing that never actually happens. So steer clear.
My goodness. Anyway, a fascinating topic. There's also the Jewish Quarterly Global Conversation, Hamas, and its 2 million hostages.
Yeah, so that is the opening, nothing like hitting the blocks with a zinger.
Absolutely. And it's the complete opposite to the humour of the galah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's partly because our live Zoom guest is based in Washington that it's on at 9:30 in the morning, but we really think it will get people through the door.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah, Ahmed Fouad Alkhatib, who is Palestinian. He lives in America. He actually has written this Jewish Quarterly essay, and he will be interviewed by Kylie Moore-Gilbert, who, of course, was detained and held hostage in Iran for 800 days. So she's the author of The Uncaged Sky, and a Middle East expert, academic and journalist. So quite sensational. And they are both fabulous, and they're very keen to be in conversation.
Absolutely.
So it's what's called a live Zoom. Kylie's live. Ahmed zooms in, but there will be live Q&A so the audience can engage.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's just like he's in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a showstopper.
And most people would have had some exposure to that article. Brilliant article.
Absolutely. Well, he's only just released it, but I've seen him on television. I mean, he is a spokesperson on this issue. So, and it's refreshing because we know that not all Palestinians are Hamas supporters, and that's just something that doesn't get much airplay in this kind of, the sort of situation that we're in at the moment.
No, because we start barracking for teams, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a polarisation, absolutely.
There is. You've also got Rachel Cockerell with Deborah Stone.
Deborah Stone from TJI, the Jewish Independent. That's going to be wonderful. Rachel's English. She is the youngest of 7 children herself, actually, and she discovered that her great-grandfather was the mind behind a little-known sort of activity which was trying to find a homeland for Jews from Russia, and he pinpointed Galveston, Texas, and he got 10,000 Jews to migrate from Russia to Galveston, Texas.
Really?
But she's painted this story that started out as a family history against the backdrop of what was happening with the Zionist movement across the time. So from Theodore Herzl right through. And she's done it in a way of a collage or a montage of real primary sources. And she's actually taken herself out of the, sort of discussion. She's used diaries, she's used newspaper clippings, she's used letters to paint this whole Zionist movement of the day, and it's absolutely fascinating. It's called Melting Point, and she's a real dynamo.
Wow.
Young and dynamic and, incredibly articulate and very interesting.
How interesting. And, of course, we know that at one stage during the early days of the Zionist movement that they were thinking about the Kimberleys.
Absolutely, and that's in there as well. So, and I think that Deborah Stone's the perfect, interlocutor to have that conversation with Rachel. So we think that'll be a really big draw card.
What else can I pick on here? Because there's so much good. There really is. There's so much good stuff.
We've got like 2 or 3 sessions at every time point, and because of that, all the conversations are going for 45 minutes, and we're allowing enough time between so that people can maybe get to the bookshop, the Avenue Bookshop from Elswick. They deserve a plug.
They do.
And maybe, if they can get in between sessions or anyway at any time during the day, but authors will be there to sign. But we just wanted to leave a little bit of breathing space so people can get from A to B, because last time we had Q&A and it all sort of like started to kind of, get a little bit rushed.
Yes.
But that's part of it as well.
Of course. Of course.
It's just squeezing so much in.
Upstanders, not bystanders.
That's a huge one.
Which is a fantastic saying, by the way, and you know where it comes from? Who uses it?
Tell me.
Oh, well, courage to care.
Courage to care, of course, yes.
That's their whole mantra.
Yes, and that my mother was in Courage to Care in Sydney. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Well, she was a facilitator because we don't have a Holocaust background. We've got convict ancestry. I've probably told you that before.
Yes, you have. But I'm still in awe of that.
I'm in awe of that. But so she was a facilitator, but she went to, far-flung country towns and worked to educate students, which is such an important mission.
Yeah.
But, so I had heard the term, but, we thought we were coining an original phrase, I guess.
There you go. There's no such thing.
No such thing. But Michael Scott, who is a non-Jewish ally, but he's worked with Defence and he lived in Israel and he was with the United Nations, and he really has stood up and written 2 books about, Israel has a right to exist, and also post-Bondi he's written The Light Still Burns. Very, very important spokesperson. Erica Frydenberg, who's published Do Not Forget Me Street, and that is about the people that had the courage to help and save Jews in Hungary, where she was born.
Yeah.
And then we've got, of course, Lee Kaufman talking about Ruptured and, the effort in pulling together an amazing anthology.
Yeah, it really was, yes.
Yep, that has absolutely broken through into the mainstream and, educating a lot of people about what's been happening to Jewish women in particular in Australia. And then we've got Kylie Moore-Gilbert. This is a jam-packed session. Kylie Moore-Gilbert, obviously, who contributed to Ruptured, but she's also, as we spoke about, was in Iran. So she's also representing the Iranian, community's plight at the moment. And all of that is being moderated by Rochelle Unreich of a Brilliant Life. And
terrific.
she has contributed to 3 anthologies, Ruptured as well as 2 others, 2 American anthologies about being Jewish at this time. So she's sort of, the best person for the job. But that'll be a big one.
That'll be massive. Where are you holding it, by the way?
It's going to be at the Pullman Hotel at Albert Park again.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're very excited because that was such a perfect venue last time. And it was sort of like
you could
breaking
wander around
up.
from session to session.
Exactly, yeah.
What else am I going to... Oh, this is one that was released a while ago, Nazis in Australia.
Yes.
Fact, fiction, print and screen.
Yes, so that's fantastic. So obviously that title is taken from Mark Aaron's and Graham Blewett's
book,
which was also based on Mark Aaron's journalism back in, I think, the 80s when Bob Hawke had sort of set out to try and hold the Nazis in Australia to account.
Yep.
And that all eventually was kind of kiboshed because it was too difficult to get the evidence and to try people. But so then I think it was Maurice Schwartz came along and said, look, we need to do a book. And he's published it. He's published Nazis in Australia, and Mark Aaron's will be there. And then we've got Danny Ben Moshe, who I mentioned will be at the gala as well, but he's written The Watchmaker's War, which is a fictionalised version of the documentary he made about his own father, who went Nazi hunting literally to find the culprit in his own story. And Dan Goldberg, who is from Sydney and is a documentary maker and has done another documentary about Nazis in Australia. And he's also, the day that filming wrapped up was the day of December the 14th of Bondi.
No, really?
And now he's filming a Bondi documentary.
Wow.
So that's a very, very profound session, obviously, and Simon Holloway from the Holocaust Museum will be conducting that session. Yeah.
Simon's very good. Is there anything relating to Bondi specifically?
Not so specifically, because I think it'll just filter through, obviously.
It's a bit early.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, we do have, as I mentioned, Michael Scott, who's, that's probably the most prevalent concept in terms of the book that he wrote. Within 3 weeks, he had written 60,000 words after Bondi. So, yes, that is directly related. And he was so profoundly affected by that, it's wonderful to have an ally, someone who isn't Jewish, and that's what I mean by that theme of connections as well, that really can speak from experience and, get the message beyond. We don't want to be in an echo chamber, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, yes, it definitely is part of the conversation.
So I'm not sure how much more I can go through, but there are some that really...
Oh, we've got romance,
I know there's that. I'm not a romance reader. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people are. I'm sorry. I apologise.
That's quite okay. But it's not just romance writers. We've got a romance book talker, and she is fantastic, young and dynamic and very fun. So I'm hoping that she actually book talks about some of the other authors' works that are on the panel with her. I think it'll be fun. We need a bit of levity.
You do. But I do want to ask you 2 more, I think. I want to ask you about intersections, which is about the different strands of Judaism.
Absolutely.
Which is, by the way, I was just reading today a piece in, I can't remember which Jewish journal, Israeli journal, but I mean more than 50% of Israel's population is made up of Jews from Arab countries.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we've got an Israeli, obviously, Ayelet Sabari, who is one of our keynote international authors, and she's on that panel because she has a Yemenite background.
Oh, wow.
And she lived in Canada and she's now residing back in Israel. Right. But her latest novel, The Songs for the Broken-Hearted, is about the Yemenite-Israeli experience. So that's really special. We've got Marav Fema, who is a local. I believe her husband's a rabbi. She's from, I think she's got a Spanish background, a Sephardi background, and we have actually a non-Jewish Sri Lankan doctor, Sinjava.
Really?
He's written about the Silk Road, and there's a section in it about the Jews on the Silk Road, and it actually references Maimonides, who was also Spanish, Rambam, I think he's referred to. So, and we have as the moderator Marcelo Magidman, who is Brazilian, but Ashkenazi background.
Wow.
And he's a social work and philosophy academic at Monash University.
Wow.
So he's pulling that all together, the concept of intersections and how we have such diversity within our culture. So no monoculturalism about it, thank goodness.
Fantastic. Look, the final one I'll ask you about, and it's it's the question I started out before we started recording this, but why does every photo of Bram Presser look so brutal? I mean, he's got this demonic look on his face.
It's the same photo that we use all the time, but I'm going to catch him.
He's older than that now.
Possibly, although he hasn't really aged. He's had that look for a long time. He's still got his dreads, but I'm going to catch him unawares with a little iPhone shot where he's smiling, because he does smile. He laughs.
Does he really?
And he's actually leading a fantastic conversation.
Well, that's the one I want to talk
everyone in stitches.
about Howard Jacobson's writing.
Oh, yeah. He's in conversation with Tali Lavi.
Yeah.
It's the Bechdin of books, but it's a focus just on Howard Jacobson's How, which is the latest book, which is a post-October 7 fiction. Yeah. And as Bram says, only Howard Jacobson would be able to pull
write
this
like
off.
that. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. You've done an amazing job pulling all
so
this
exciting.
together, Debbie.
Yes, and that's just part of it. We have not divulged everything yet, but people should go onto the website.
So go onto the website, which is mjbw.com.au, and until Sunday you can get early bird tickets.
That's right.
So go for it.
Absolutely. Gala plus the full day festival. And so that's a $20 discount. And we haven't even announced our 2 other events yet. It's a rolling schedule. On the Monday night, we have a pop-up poetry event at a venue called Dawn and Mabel's in Ackland Street.
Dawn and Mabel's?
It's a bar.
Sounds like
it's a wine bar.
Sounds like a country pub.
You can, kick up the heels. But it's run by an Israeli, Gal. I don't know his last name, but he's a poet. And it's being curated by Shoshi Rockman, who is our resident poet laureate. We have 12 poets that will be, regaling us with some fabulous poetry, all original, obviously. And then on the final night, the Tuesday night, we have at the Kadima, we have Joseph Toltz, whose book about songs from the Holocaust, Out of the Depths. He's developed an actual original cabaret with Galit Klass, Adam Starr, and some other musicians. It's going to be sensational, and it's a one-off, so we're very blessed.
Fantastic.
And that's on the Tuesday night. And those 2 events are yet to be released, but I'm very happy to make that announcement a little prematurely so that people can stay tuned.
Fantastic. Thanks for being with us, Debbie.
Great pleasure. Thank you.
Terrific.